You're listening to the Scaling Culture Podcast, where we sit down with thought leaders who share their experiences building incredible workplace cultures. Our guest today is Bob Selle, Chief People Officer at Ocean State Job Lot. Bob is recognized as an HR icon, futurist, and culture transformation influencer. Together with his team, Bob is leading a transformation that has named Ocean State Job Lot a Forbes Best Midsize Employer 3 of the past 4 years, and has received DEI recognition and multi-state safety and associate wellbeing awards. Also, as a believer in collaboration and giving back, Bob is committed to pay it forward by consulting and advising several startups. His volunteer work includes the Rhode Island Free Clinic and mentoring at the Nonviolence Institute. In this episode of Scaling Culture, Ron and Bob discuss how critical it is to practice active and deep listening to create a culture of trust and belonging. Ocean State Job Lot systems and processes to stay focused on the wellness of their associates and making sure people love coming to work. And some great questions every company should be asking themselves when trying to redesign a workplace in the post-pandemic world.
Welcome to another episode of the Scaling Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Lovett, and today I'm very excited to have Bob Selle with us. Bob, how are you?
I am awesome today. How are you doing?
I'm good, all the way from Rhode Island.
Yes, Rhode Island. Yeah, it's supposed to be spring, but we keep getting rain and cold. So,
well, my friend,
someday
we are with you on that. There's, beautiful Halifax, Nova Scotia. Today's beautiful, but in an hour it will be raining, and then the following hour it will probably snow. So I feel your pain. So Bob, look, just as an overview, because I hadn't heard of Ocean State Job Lot, and you being Chief Human Resource Officer and Culture Champion, just tell our listeners what the company does.
Yeah, so simply, we are a closeout retailer. We used to say we're in the Northeast, but we're starting to sneak down into the Mid-Atlantic, and we've got 4 stores in Pennsylvania. So we are unlike other companies. We will buy and sell anything. We get a lot of our customers shop us, and they've taglined us, we're adventure shopping, because you never know what you're going to get in that store. So that's what we do, and it's a lot of fun.
Wow. And so what brought you to this? Because how long have you been there for?
I will be here 6 years in July, and I was at Kohl's department stores. I was senior vice president of HR prior to that, and I started in the stores, and then obviously I grew. What brought me here was, I met the ownership team, and they were a company committed to their communities, to their associates, but they didn't know how to do it. And they gave me a canvas, and all of us that love what we do, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. It also was a little scary, because typically we're building on something at companies. This literally was a ground up build around the people piece, and best 6 years of my career so far.
Well, good for you. And so sounds like that high level purpose vision, which back then probably didn't attract as people as much as it does today. But so I think you were ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Right.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so it sounds like that was the attracting piece. But then for you, it sounds like this uphill battle that you were interested in leaning into versus feared and said, I don't know if I can deliver. I'm going to stay away.
Yeah. I'm a driven guy. So all of us have a little bit of an ego, I guess. And this is, I'm one person that wants to challenge myself every day and challenge the people around me. So I thought it was a major opportunity.
So I'm curious of a few things.
Yeah.
Coming from where you came from, you would have built some corporate habits, right?
Right.
How did you balance that with coming in with this fresh perspective and balance with, there's probably some good things I'm going to bring in here, but some things I need to leave behind? How'd you figure that out?
Time, the one, it's a special place. So I'll start there. And it's not like every company, but there's a lot of things that we do that are definitely easy to transfer. But this company, it has grown organically. We're actually 44 years old. And so I remember in my first meeting, the CEO saying that, Bob, we've got 30 years here, so you don't need to solve world problems in a week. And that's unlike the Fortune 125s, where a lot of us work, where you're delivering quarterly, right, for your shareholders. So I was able to spend 3 months just listening and observing and trying to understand where we were as an organization. And then after 3 months, I had my thoughts, and then I proposed it to the team, and we moved forward.
And so can you tell us some of those details? Because I'm curious. I think this would be helpful for some that have made that transition from big corp to small, medium-sized enterprises. What did you have to bring with you? What were some of the key things that were helpful to bring with you from your corporate world? And what were things that you had to leave behind and reinvent? Can you walk through some of those items?
Yeah, so the things that you bring with you is exactly what's good at corporate America, because of the money that you have to make change on scale. So learn, and I always, just for perspective, I've always grounded myself in Maslow, and I spend a lot of time talking and coaching Maslow, because the one thing that's constant is the human being. So what I was able to bring is understanding what good leadership development looks like, what good learning looks like for associates in the stores, in a distribution center, in a corporate office, what good philanthropic associate involvement looks like in the community, what good listening. The biggest thing we do, unlike many companies, is we listen all the time. We truly have a listening culture. And so I knew what great looked like, but what I learned, and first thing I had to unwind is the pace. This company we move fast and we're nimble, but like I started with the CEO, we want to be able to do it right. And unlike a corporate office as well, we can get 70% and we'll launch. Almost like technology, where you're going to learn on the fly. Most big companies, they want it to be airtight, right? And so we have the ability, because of our size, to test and learn. And that was new to me. The first couple things I wanted to do, I wanted to be airtight. And I realized that it's okay to fail. It's fail fast. And we do that. And I think that's why we've been successful.
That's great. And I've been through that same process myself. I had corporate execs work for me in my past business, and very intelligent people, but wanted things airtight. That 12 item system, but I always said, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that item 4 is not even going to work because we haven't pushed this out. So I love that. And I think there's a great lesson out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing jumped out at me. You said we have this culture of listening.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, because I think this topic's coming up more and more. It seems to be one of the most taken for granted skills in corporate North America, global, corporations globally, is the listening skill. It seems like only in some cases we talk about it at the leadership level. Companies don't really train for employees to learn how to listen. What have you guys done to build the culture of great listeners? I'm very curious.
Yeah. Well, first, we got alignment at the top. And again, it goes back to the culture of the company. We've got a CEO that still does a broadcast every Friday with all of our leadership out in the field. And he is quick to say that my favorite line is, we were transitioning cleaning from an outside party in store. And he said, I have no clue what the best broom is, but I know that the maintenance people in the store will tell me. And
love that. I love that.
And so I knew that was who we were. And at the same time that I'm in the company, I want to just make sure I state, they also brought in 4 other leaders, a distribution center exec from big company Ahold, a store operations guy who'd been with great companies like Best Buy, Marshall's, a general counsel, and the chief marketing officer, just to name a few. So we had a leadership team that all had the same philosophy. We interviewed if you care about people, you're going to be successful here, because that's what this company was founded on. So when I talk about some of the successes and how we got here, I want to make sure everybody understands that it's not a one-person show. It's actually about team. I almost forgot where we were, Ron. I'm sorry.
Look, you're just kind of walking through the listening piece. How,
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
right?
yes. So we sat down and we defined, who we wanted to be as an organization. And the thing that jumped out when I was listening to the leadership team, and listening is literally that. I would go to stores and walk around, introduce myself, and ask, what are we doing right? What can we do better? What do you want? And so listening, we bucket it in so many different, so for benefits and total rewards, you can benchmark, and companies make assumptions of what your people want. We literally hired some MBA students to do a capstone project on what an employer of choice looks like. And they went out and engaged the entire organization. So what came back was, this is what's special to Ocean State Job Lot and the associates. We spoke to the associates in the distribution center, which is just a melting pot. We have 40 countries represented, 7 dialects. And that's a whole lot of different things that group wants. And then you got your traditional white collar workers in the corporate office that have different needs. But we call it, so the title of what we do is We Are Listening. And every leader, every manager, we're always listening. It's as simple as that. I want you to ask probing questions and understand how people are.
But I just want to jump back to what you said, because I love those 3 questions, right? And I think they're impactful and important. So what can you restate those? What are we doing?
Yeah, what are we doing right?
What are we doing right? Yeah.
Where do we have opportunities? What should we be doing better? And what do you need? Yeah.
What do you want or what do you need? Okay, yeah. Love that. And those scale up, right? Because one is kind of baseline, one starts to move up, and the other is let's what are some ideas like that kind of drives, yes, the manager or whoever's asked the question needs to listen, but now you're starting to drive innovation too. One is like, protect us, what's slipping through the cracks, and then how do we make this company better? If you read between the lines of those questions, correct?
Yeah. And you have to be comfortable though, because once you listen, you have to act, and so for those of us that don't just jump out and listen if you can't do anything with the information. I mean, that's really, really important, because you lose trust, and trust is really important today.
But it feels like your organization would give folks the autonomy to move.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's one of our values. Yep.
That's great. And so is that, it sounds like this is a natural thing. Or, do you measure listening in performance reviews, or is it processed? The questions are processed.
Yeah, but it's a little of both. So we measure success in the organization through a number of different ways. One, we measure just engagement of the offerings that we have, whether it's on the well-being side, those folks that are engaging with telehealth, those folks that are engaging with pet insurance that they asked for. That's the baseline. We measure turnover. We measure turnover at under 90 days, because that's important to us, that we didn't deliver something in our promise that you felt like you had to leave us in 90 days. Our brand is very, very important to us. We listen through all of the social media platforms. Glassdoor is a biggie to us. And so those are the things that honestly can tell you how successful you're being. We know Forbes, everybody wants to be a Forbes Best company, because that's solicited and it's anonymous and it's simple, likelihood to recommend. So a net promoter score is important. And so we'll ask net promoter score questions from time to time to see how we're doing. So those are the ways that we measure success. We measure success right now, internal development. We had to buy to get the ability to scale the way we're trying to scale now. But we also knew that is not a recipe for long-term growth and commitment from your teams. So, now we're focused on making sure we call them career journeys, that we are building career journeys for anyone. And it's not just ladder, it's lattice. We want you to pick your journey. So in our associates, the other thing I would say is our associates aren't afraid to tell us, which is awesome. Because yeah,
it's interesting when you were talking about journey. We had Amy HR on a few weeks ago, and she talked about this movement from going from a career path to a success path, and that's exactly what you're talking about, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to go to I want to dig into the business a little bit. So family business, 40 plus years. Sorry,
44. Yeah.
So second or first generation?
First generation. Still, second. There's a couple second generation sons that are in the business. Two brothers. One was an engineer, and I think he might even been driving a cab at that time in New York City. The other brother was an attorney in upstate New York, and then a college roommate. They literally pooled $500 together and started buying. I think the first big sale were odd side slippers on Long Island at a flea market.
It was kind of Amazon in its, back in the day, right? Just
Yep.
a mash of all these different items, it sounds like.
Yeah. And here, 44 years later, we're going to be at 150 stores, we hope, this year, building out a pretty strong e-commerce building, which is a big strategy of ours this year. Very philanthropic. We are the largest single provider of meals in the Northeast. I can't even remember how many truckloads of food. Giving back is so important. And we're lucky, Ron. 2 of the 3 objectives for the organization this year, so it tells you kind of who we are one of them, it falls under culture and one falls under purpose. The other one's driving sales. But the 2/3 of what we do, we know we have to do it through our people and enriching the lives of our customers and our associates if we're going to be successful. So my job has gotten, honestly, very easy.
So I had a question I didn't ask. I want to go back to this listening thing. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the net promoter scores, do you get into the weeds on that, i.e. high customer, high employee? How well do you score us? Do you feel listened to? Do you get that specific on the question to measure it?
No, but what we do, our customers, absolutely, they'll still do focus groups and talk to our customers. And
so you're going very deep if it's focused.
Yeah, we will do focus groups for the associates. We don't want to do traditional surveys. I've never liked them. We're actually building for the second half of the year right now. When they log on, it's basically a kiosk, and we're going to start dropping questions in there so they can continue to answer confidentially. I guess you could call them pulse, but it'll be 1 or 2 questions on the topic of the day, because we want to know. Like right now, we've got this huge investment in well-being. Our associates ask for mental support. Our data, obviously, that's everyone. But I want to make sure that the tools we're providing it's so important that we've got a wellness ambassador in each location. We've invested significantly, but the way they're measuring it is right now is through Google and clicks on the well-being site. But I want to know more. So we're going to ask deeper questions. Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So 2 things that I've noticed, not just in this conversation, but in past with some past guests. The word employee is getting used less and less. You're using 2 words. You're saying associate, and you mean employee, and you're saying ambassador.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the significance of the word associate? And then let's talk about that for a second. Well,
just by definition, I think if we look up employee, it's someone that works for you. And an associate is someone that works with you.
I love that.
And to be successful in the world, we've got to be working together, not working for each other. If we could, we are very flat. And honestly, if we could figure out a way not to have titles, we wouldn't have them. I spent a day with associates in Pennsylvania, and all I did was thank them for what they did during the year of COVID, and want to understand what they were going through to make sure we were delivering on what they need. Because it's easy to work from home. It's not easy to be on the front lines.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
An ambassador, because if we're going to do things that everybody says this is what we need someone to champion that. And so our ambassadors are ones that love the brand, that care about well-being. They volunteered. It's not like and they said, yes, I will carry the flag in my location to make sure everybody understands all of the resources they have.
I love that. It's funny in my my company Vita Living, our frontline staff members are called building ambassadors. We use that same title. And you know, I think that there's, because I'm hearing this more and more, I think that if I had made a guess that those who get culture right within the next 5-10 years don't use the word employee. I think we'll hear that less and less. I think
agree with
you're
you.
ahead of the time, and so are other companies. But I think we'll hear it less and less. You would agree?
Yeah. And I brought that with me, though, that, a couple of those great Fortune companies have been using the word associate for decades.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were ahead of their time.
Good for them.
Yeah.
And so let's go to the culture of family business. And sorry, I rewound and we got
Okay.
off track, but this has been a great conversation. So 44-year-old family business, how does, from your perspective, how do the founder leaders stay nimble? And because, you know, we're typically the family business, and I know this is first generation, but gets stale. The culture kind of stays back in 1970. How has the company been able to continue to upgrade their culture and be progressive about, empowerment and treating people well versus that's probably not where they started too.
Yeah. Because they are very self-aware as an ownership team. For a group of people, and in this case, the CEO, to think 6-7 years ago saying, hey, this whole associate thing, and we were calling them employees, by the way, back then,
Yeah.
Giving free healthcare, obviously we need to do more if we want to have people love us. And when you think of legacies, they were very proud of what they'd done in the community, what they've done to grow a business, but I would say they were probably lukewarm on what they were able to do for their teams. And so recognition of, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I know I can go get the right talent that will help me, is important, because legacy to them, they talk more about, their grandchildren and what they're leaving for their grandchildren. The kids are engaged. One of the sons is actually helping us as an organization stay nimble on strategy. And he's doing a great job. And unlike other family businesses, they really like each other, I mean,
yeah, that is odd.
they like each other.
Falling apart over the family business, right?
And it's not a business. I still am in awe that they will say, actually, this is our hobby and we love what we do. And, my CEO said, Bob, I'm going to die spinning in my seat. And, and so he surrounds himself with like-minded people. And we all care, because we also, everybody understands, we welcome them as part of the family. And so when you believe that you are part of something bigger, you will do amazing things. And we spend a great deal of time on that.
That's excellent. I know that in the organization, people, it's got this culture where people are comfortable and speaking up about how the little things kind of create magic. And so it sounds like people are open to giving ideas and speaking up. Am I getting that right when you say create magic?
And here's a real example. So finally, Rhode Island is allowing our corporate office to open up again in June. But before we opened up, we wanted to understand, what are we doing right? And when you come back to the office, what are you worried about and what can be different? What can be better? I wanted it to make sure that it was not the same place they left, because that can be apprehensive. And it's simple things like art on some of the walls. So our art that's going to be on our 3 floors are all pictures that associates have taken out in nature or whatever they're passionate about. And so our art will be all associate driven. They wanted, to start getting a little more progressive with spacing. So we're doing this whole future of work project. But one of the things that we heard loud and clear is, for those folks that do work in cubes, they would love space. So we walked the building as a leadership team and have created quiet space. They have asked for, more outdoor seating for lunches. So we're creating a place for them to have more outdoor seating. They wanted, this is crazy, but one of our best online items is massage chairs, the expensive ones, up to 1,000, 2,000. So we've created wellness space around the building where people will be able to sign up to take a massage during the day. So the long story short, when it comes back, it's going to be representative of what our associates asked for.
So a couple of things. One, send me a couple of massage chairs. I'll take two.
Dude, they're
for
awesome.
Sure, right? I love them. Let's be honest. We could talk about massage chairs and just go on that tangent. But look, there was something, this blanket that I think is very important as people are getting back to work is, and I love that you said, we don't want this to be the same place you left. And how do you want it to change? I think that is such a powerful question / statement, and it sends the right message to people saying, we really want your impact and let's make this experience better for you. I love that.
Yeah.
But more importantly, let's get to the how, because fine, you've created an environment where you can listen, but how do you get people to feel safe to give you this type of feedback? Because it's a little different. Maybe it might happen over time, but feeling safe so I can say, I'd like this, or I want more space outside, that you're doing something else. How are you achieving that?
We build trust. I touched on it earlier, and it takes time, and you have to crawl, walk, run. And so, 6 years ago, people were absolutely apprehensive. And it started with making sure that you showed them whatever we were talking about, it was going to stay confidential. And so once you get that group of people, it begins word of mouth, right? And then after you start to interview and add talent that are committed and have strength and courage to be honest, it's that melding of the great people that were here and inserting newness and creating this new family, all built around trust. But it took 6 years. And I would say there's still pockets where, people still won't speak up, but that's okay. We're going to continue to do the right things, and hopefully at some point they feel confident. But I say this all the time, and we try to say this: we are not solving world problems, and there is no reason why we can't have a professional disagreement and not still go have lunch. And I had that conversation again this week. And because if that person doesn't want to go to lunch, then somehow we've made it personal, and we got to figure out how we fix that.
I love that. If they won't go to lunch with you, there's a problem, right?
Yep.
And also I think it's great. And it takes courage to say, because there's two paths. There's, wow, some of these associates won't speak up. What we're doing isn't working. Let's revert, or let's push through. It's okay. We'll keep working on this. And I love that, because that's a pivotal moment when you are aware of that and okay with it. And that takes courage. Good for you. So what's next? What, in a culture like this, what's the new challenge? What are you working on? And what's the next, thing that you need to kind of figure out? Because most cases there isn't a playbook for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think more are getting in the ring, but what's next? What are you working on?
The future of work and what the future of retail looks like, with self-checkouts, automation, from a business perspective, those are the things that are going through our mind. But, I believe it or not, our turnover in retail is only like 50%, which is unheard of, right? But that's not good enough to us. We want to improve our retention. We want to improve internal growth. And we want to continue to have our associates coming to work is as easy as being at home. And so that intersection, because they do intersect, that's what's next. We want everyone, not just a handful. We want the 5,600 associates to say, Ocean State Job Lot is my employer of choice. I choose to be there, and I love coming to work. That's people would say, well, that's nirvana, but that's how committed we are to all of our people. Yeah.
I love that. Bob, look, thanks so much for dropping in and coming on our show today. It's been a lovely conversation. I love the passion. I can just feel it from you. You obviously found your home, and good for you. And it sounds like you're continuing to add value to the organization. It sounds like a great marriage.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ron.
Yeah. Well, look, thanks again, and let's stay in touch.
Perfect. Have a great weekend.
For more information about Bob and to follow his work, go to bobselle.com, BOBSELLE, thehrguide.com, or just connect with him on LinkedIn. For more information about the Scaling Culture podcast or our upcoming book and masterclass, Scaling Culture, go to connollyowens.com. And if you're enjoying the Scaling Culture podcast, please subscribe and share with your networks. We'll be back next week with another incredible guest.